project outside Graaff-Reinet, which some of you might know of, the giant flag, which I have to mention. So there's a little bit of controversy around the project. The site that was chosen wasn't necessarily the ideal site, and specifically for Spekboom, amongst other issues. But nonetheless, it was the sort of the dawn of this little project. And essentially, what we set out to do was build some sort of technology, a platform that we could connect consumers to a project on the ground that was doing restoration work. And essentially the angle that we approached it with was around carbon capture and offsetting, and the use of Spekboom in that space. So in terms of what we've done with it, we've partnered currently with the GCPR and Jobs for Carbon. And we've got currently a project going. It's quite small. It's about 7-8 hectares that's currently being planted out. There's several thousand little speckies in the nursery, and that's going in the ground at the moment. So from our tech perspective, what we've done is we've created this facility that online merchants can plug in into the back of their website, and it's essentially a tree planting program, and the focus is around Spekboom. We've currently covered most of the merchants in South Africa, or the ability for them to plug into our system, and probably about 70-80% of online merchants around the world with these 4 platforms. So the process at the moment is we have a little pop-up. We offer at the point of purchase, when someone's about to pay for their purchase online, the ability to add 15 Rand locally, or it's a pound, a euro, a dollar, where people have real currencies. And basically we've got a mechanism that collects that cash, and we distribute it to various projects on the ground. So some of the numbers at the moment, we've got at the moment a very small group of merchants. We've got 35 merchants, and out of these 35, at least in South Africa, we are seeing about 150,000 users that are going through our merchants on a monthly basis. Out of those 150,000 users, about 2% of them are actually making purchases online. And out of those 2%, we have about 6 or 7.5, I think was the latest number, of those consumers are actually making contributions to Respect Nature. So with our very small group of merchants, we're managing to show at least a proof of concept that there's a serious interest in the space and consumers contributing towards restoration. So what it looks like, this is one of the brands that are using our platform. Can you click for me just on the page? There we go. So they go to the cart, pops up, we click the button, it adds a line item onto the shopping cart, and the purchase is completed by on the merchant side, and we've got some tech in the background that does the rest. Okay, so since we started a couple of years ago, there's a couple of things that happened that were quite pertinent. So essentially, the organization Respec it's a non-profit, and the technology is being been supplied by a company, a well-named company called Spectec, and essentially um, the the platform is available for further development, and I'll explain a little bit about that. So. Um, a lot of the conversations over the last few days are obviously around ecosystem and how these ecosystems interact with each other. But there's a particular ecosystem that we haven't really looked at much, and that's the human ecosystem and how us as people are interacting with these environments. So there's what's it called? A Buddhist koan that says if a tree falls in a forest and no one's there to hear it, does it make a noise? So all these conversations essentially are really people-centric. Nothing that we're looking at, that we're observing, that in this scientific community, none of this work would be happening unless there's someone to actually observe what's going on. And involving the consumer at the end of the day and enriching them and educating them and at least informing them of what's going on the ground is a key part of this puzzle. And essentially, we've got a very simple call to action, which is in the digital space, a click. Add an extra little amount onto a shopping cart. And that little action triggers a connection to something that's going on. So in terms of the projects that we've been dealing with, I'm sure this is not unfamiliar, but so this is what the pilot project or pilot site at the Giant Flag. Well, this is what it did look like probably about 2 years ago. And unfortunately, that's what it's looking like today. So one of the key problems with the project, despite the site of it, the fundamental mission of the project was actually to uplift the community. But the reality on the ground was it was a little bit harder than we expected. And enrolling the local community in this project and getting a real buy-in to the project wasn't actually successful. And the on-the-ground operation essentially ran out of money because we had to spend money on security. So if the community if there was buy-in from the community, from the people involved that this project would actually serve, we wouldn't need to spend the money on security and we could actually roll things out a little bit further. On the other hand, we've got a project further in the Western Cape, Jobs for Carbon. So this is outside Van Wyksdorp, I believe, right? And it's going strong. So from a people side, there's a team of between 40 and 60 people between Calitzdorp and Van Wyksdorp, and these guys, men and women, have been working for the last almost 10 years, and there's visiting these people and talking to them, there's a sense of community, a sense of camaraderie, and there's would be no issue in terms of the value of the project. However, on the flip side, the work that's been done there and the planting that's been happening isn't really growing. So one project, we've got beautiful growth, which I showed you a moment ago, but the people side is failing. Here we've got a project where the people side of things is really strong, but the plants aren't growing. Then we've got another little project where we've got incredible growth, Um, Justin might, the Living Lands guys might find this familiar. This is on Wim Pitt's farm in Vivianskloof, where these plants are growing beautifully, but there was a the third component wasn't taken care of, and something that Tony mentioned yesterday in terms of the measurements that were done, the basis in which the project was set up didn't factor in a potential revenue stream from carbon, and now we're stuck. So essentially, what have we got going is we've got a very simple platform, which hearing Kathleen speaking, that's just, it is serendipitous. The next steps for us, for Respect Nature, for SpecTech, would be to essentially enroll this community and essentially get data like what Kathleen was talking about, that we can actually build very simple products for all people involved. So from farmers who want to be able to get involved in this restoration work, to give them very simple tools to be able to make the case of whether it's worth them doing the restoration and where to restore. For corporates and individuals who want reporting towards ESG or CSI, that there's a simple way of them being able to find this data and reporting. And then ultimately to be able to generate a revenue stream from carbon or other mechanisms, whether it be water security or social dynamics, that there's some sort of corporate involvement. So it's essentially a call to action from this community. We've got something that's really working and facing the local South African populace, and internationally, we can really get things moving in a beautiful way. But we need more cooperation, and we'd love to reach out to all of you and see how we can contribute towards this project.
Cool. Thanks very much, Ephraim.